What you are looking at has been at the center of an ownership controversy for over 200 years. It involves part of the structure pictured. It is known the world over as the Parthenon Temple. This structure is at least 2,500 years old and is a lasting testament to the culture that brought to the world principles of democracy, the Olympic Games, and many other innovations and contributions to Western civilization, and this structure epitomizes Greece's contribution to the world. This is an image of an exact replica of the original. It is located in Nashville, Tennessee. In viewing it, one can imagine the splendor of the original. This is the guy who caused the controversy surrounding what we call the Parthenon Marbles. His name is Thomas Bruce, 7th Earl of Elgin, born in Scotland in 1766. It is he who was primarily responsible for one of the biggest scandals of the 19th century, a scandal that is still being discussed, argued, and debated to this very day. This scandal discusses the manner in which Thomas Bruce and the British Museum came to possess the Parthenon marbles from the country of Greece. Repatriation of art is defined, quote, is the return of cultural items that were removed from their homeland, end quote. Greece officially requested the return of the Parthenon marbles in 1983. But behind the scenes, or unofficially, they've been trying for decades to have them returned to their country. This begs the question of why art and cultural artifacts should be returned. The answer to this question is 1, it is morally correct. 2, it reflects basic property laws. And 3, stolen or looted property should be returned to its rightful owner. Britain has repeatedly found excuses to justify why they are not returning the marbles, somehow remaining blind to the events that led up to them having the marbles in their possession. This timeline summarizes the events and actions taken by Thomas Bruce to acquire the Parthenon marbles. What the timeline does not describe are the behind-the-scene antics that were conducted to gain access to begin their plunder. They did this in the way of giving bribes. After becoming broke and deep in debt, Thomas Bruce lobbied the British Parliament to have the British Museum purchase the marbles from him. It must be noted that upon bringing the marbles to Britain, they were used to decorate his home, which is the real reason they wind up in Britain in the first place. The artifacts he brought to his home include 56 blocks of the bas-relief squares from the Parthenon frieze, 15 high-relief squares called the meatopes of the Parthenon, and 19 pediment sculptures, all of which have been on display in the British Museum since 1817. Through the years, there have been various concerted efforts to get the artifacts returned to Greece. And yet these demonstrations, legal decisions, decrees, and formal requests have fallen on deaf ears. In 2009, As an answer to Britain's assertion that the Parthenon marbles would be better cared for in their possession, the Acropolis Museum was built in Athens, Greece, which houses the free squares, metopes, and pediment sculptures that were not removed, and the missing elements to those architectural embellishments were replaced with plaster replicas. The museum was primarily built to protect the remaining pieces from the elements, and yet the museum also indirectly gives notice to Britain that they have the facility and qualified conservation staff to properly care, restore, and maintain the over 2,500-year-old artifacts. Is there room for compromise? No, not in the eyes of the Greeks. In my paper, I will present a more detailed argument as to why the Parthenon marbles should be returned to their rightful owners and homeland. I'd like to close this presentation with an excerpt from a speech that was given by the late former Greek Minister of Culture, Melina Makori, who gave the speech to the UNESCO conference in Mexico City in 1983. You must understand what the Parthenon marbles mean to us. They are our pride. They are our sacrifice. They are the sublime symbol of nobility. They are a tribute to democratic philosophy.